20,000, for example, and notice how the number changes, right? So you can try to plug in the numbers that'll make it break even. That's one way to go about this. It might take longer, but there's also a math way to do it. And then from what we did yesterday, goal seek, you can try using Excel's goal seek to try to solve it too. There's a few different ways you can go about trying to get the answer, but I'm going to let you guys attempt it first, and then we're going to do it together, okay? And once you know how to do it with two products, you can do it with 10. It doesn't get more difficult the more products you have. So again, the ratio here, guys, so I'll put in sales ratio up on the top. 4:1. 4 copies, 1 donut. So that part's important. That has to stay intact. So if we sell 4 copies, 1 donut. If it's 40 copies, 10 donuts. Right? That you always have to have that ratio. It's 4,000 copies, it's 1,000 donuts.
जब वो तो उसमें मैं पूछा लुकास का चला डी2 अपलोड कर दिया है ये जो पुराना था वो अपलोड कर दिया आप नहीं बताया था आपके ये तो चलते
I get break-even. I have to sell Apple donuts around 5,000 and Americano coffee around 20,000. So that becomes like Americano 19,950 and donut 4,988.
4, 9. This is essentially the 3 numbers you got. Okay, we can check it, right? So let's plug these in. That's right. So that's essentially the right answer. Did you guess and check, or did you do the math?
Gold.
Say again. Gold. Anybody else getting these numbers? Do it together. Okay. So up here in our table, the thing we want to do, and I know you gave me the right numbers. I'm just going to put in some random number. So let's say 4,000. Okay. So this has to be 1,000. So what I'm going to do is say that divided by 4. So whatever we have for copies, donuts is going to be a quarter, right? So it's 1-to-4 ratio. So 4, 1, 4, 1. Okay, or you can do this the other way. You could say, right, you do 1,000, and then you can say, well, we got to have 4 more copies. So you take that by 4. It doesn't matter how you want to do this. as long as the ratio is 4 to 1. So we see here that our net loss, I've added a whole bunch of business. So we got a massive net loss here. We know we're not covering, okay? So I think I'll do the math way first, and then we'll do the goals. So break even, guys, this fixed expense divided by contribution margin, okay? We're still going to use this. The only thing is that we have fixed expense, but we're not going to find contribution per unit. We need to find contribution for the units, okay? So instead here, it's not per unit, but per sales mix. So if we sell 4 copies, I'll just come down here and say 4 copies, how much contribution are we getting when we sell 4 copies? It's going to be 188 per copy multiplied by 4. Okay? So it's going to be 752. And then we have 1 donut. How much contribution do we get when we sell 1 donut? 50 cents, right? So the contribution per the sales mix is going to be the sum of these two numbers, 802. So again, I'll just show where I got those numbers from. 4 copies, 1 donut. So if we sell one of these packages, view this as like a, you know, kind of like a package that you would buy, 4 copies and 1 donut. The company or the coffee shop would make $8.02. Okay? So that's the contribution. Our fixed expense stays the same. So now what we want to do is take the fixed expense and divide it by the contribution of the sales mix, which is 802. And when you do that, you should get 4987.53.
ये मेरे को अभी कंफर्म कर देना तो मजा आ जाए.
Yeah, I'll double check that. So it's this formula here, fixed expense divided by contribution per sales mix. Now what this number tells you is the total sales mix packages, we'll call it, to break even. Okay, so that would be 4 coffees plus 1 donut. Which means this is the actual number of donuts to break even. What the student said in the back there. 4988, rounds up to 88, but this is the decimals, right? So if I then bring this up into my table, right? So here's my 4988. I'm linking this total, and it's going to be 4 times the copy. Okay? Now these have decimal places, but this will make it exactly 0. If you round, it's actually going to be off by a little tiny bit. That's why I was adding the decimals, try to find. But this tells you how many of these packages you have to sell to break even. Right, so this would be the number of donuts, and then the number of coffees. You just take this number and multiply it by 4. And here's the number of copies. Now this should not be So you're still using this formula, fixed expense divided by contribution, but it's not per unit. Instead, it's the entire sales mix. Down here, yeah, I'm just taking that and multiplying it by 4 because there's 4 copies in the sales mix. aside from a donut and a coffee?
Cake.
Okay, let's go with tea. Let's start with hot something. And we're gonna sell it for how much? $3.50? Let's go 2.15. Let's go less. And then to make a cup of tea, it's not gonna be very expensive. How much? Anybody?
Cup of tea?
Yeah. 30, yeah, let's go with 30 cents. That's quite short. Okay, so I want you guys to put these same numbers in. So we've got tea, selling price $2.15, it costs 20 cents to make. What else do we have? We're gonna sell, what else? Say again? Smoothie? Expensive, let's say it's $5.50. And it's gonna cost how much to make? $1.75, something like that. Let's go one final thing. What else do we sell at the coffee shop?
Cake.
Cake?
Yes.
Let's start with cake. So a slice of cake, let's say that's also $5. And how much does it cost to make?
Two?
2. Alright, let's go straight up. So, when you get those numbers, let's punch those in on your side first.
But the question is it piece of cake or just whole cake?
Piece of cake, piece of cake.
Then cent, not $1.
Well, sure, let's make it like 45 cents. Maybe we're gonna sell it for less. Let's go with $3. Okay. Try to keep it realistic. Obviously, these numbers don't matter. Saying we're just making it up, but we're gonna try to make it as realistic. And then you have your formula here, so just grab the right corner and drag it to the right. You're gonna get the contribution for all 5 products, right? So you should get 195, 375, 355. I'll give you guys a moment just to get that data. So we have a lot more products. We're going to increase our fixed expenses. Let's say that this now goes up to 65,000. Let's move this all the way over here. So I'm getting contribution for all of them, and I'm adding it all together. Right, so I'm just kind of extending my table, making it bigger, include all 5. We need to figure out the unit sales. So what does it take to break even? Well, there has to be a relationship among the products that we sell. So again, what a store will do is they'll try to predict, they're going to try to forecast what their sales are going to be. And they can do that by looking back in the past. Last month, how much of each product did we sell? On what days did we sell it? Is there any sort of relationship that exists there? Okay? So tea, smoothie, cake. I would say smoothie is probably going to be related to temperature getting higher, right? So if it gets hotter, people buy iced coffee, smoothies, things that are colder, probably. You might see pastry sales going down, possibly. People buy tea, maybe they buy some cake to go with it. There's going to be different relationships among the products, okay? But you would find that from looking at past data and look at other factors too. Like if if you offer a discount, or maybe you're gonna have a sale. So sometimes at these coffee shops, like everything's made at, let's say, 5 a.m. And once you get to about 1 p.m., 2 p.m., some places, what they'll do, instead of throwing out the old stuff, they'll sell it for half price, right? So then after a certain time, they'll discount everything as it gets older, so they don't have to kind of waste, they get something back eventually. So there could be different factors that affect sales, but what we need to figure out is the sales mix. So I'm going to change these numbers. Let's say we're going to sell 7 copies, and for every 7 copies, we're also going to sell 3 teas, and in there we're going to sell about 4 donuts, 2 smoothies, and 1 cake. So this is our ratio. 7, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, with this in mind, using the same formula as before, okay? So we have fixed expense divided by contribution per sales mix. I want you guys to attempt to figure out how much of each product you have to sell to break even. Fixed expenses are 65,000. So instead of products, we have 5 products. And I'll give you like, say max 10 minutes, and then we'll take a break once we finish this. Yeah? Take a 20-minute break. And we get this done, so everybody attempt to try to do it, we'll do it together. The sooner you get it done, and yeah.
I've done.
Did you use GoalSeek again? Nice. Okay, we'll go through it using GoalSeek and stuff. So it doesn't matter how many products at all, does it? It doesn't matter if there's 2 or 10 products, as long as you have the mix, the math is going to be the same as everyone else. So to start this one with you guys, up here in unit sales, we've got to insert data, right? So if we sell 1 cake, so let's go 1 cake, how many smoothies do we sell? 2. So let's say 1 cake multiplied by 2. And we do 3 tea, so we're going to take that 1 cake multiplied by 3, right? So we put in the sales mix. 1 cake multiplied by 4. And then here we're going to have that 1 cake multiplied by 7. So these are the unit sales. And we can see with just those numbers, we're far off break even. But we got to figure out what each of these should be in order to break even. And the thing with having it set up in Excel, you know you have it right when this becomes 0, right? You can visually see that, yes, we've broken even. Should we do it using GoalSeek, using Excel? You guys want to go through that way first? Okay, so come up to data. Go to Excel, go to data in the very top. And you're going to come to the what if analysis. So we did this yesterday, I believe. Did we? Or was that the other group? Did we? That was you guys, right? Okay. So go to what if analysis, click on goal seek. Okay, so we want net income to be 0. That's break even. So we're going to sell this net income cell. We're going to set it to 0. Alright, so wherever you have your net income, this has to be 0. And you're going to do this by changing the cell that you have the unit entered into, okay? Because everything is based on this number. If Kate changes to 10, the rest of these numbers change as well because everything's linked back to that cell. And when you hit enter, as long as your table is built correctly, it should populate your answers. Want me to do that again? Okay, so the main thing here, guys, is that this cell, right? So I've got one enter for Kate. Because in the sales mix ratio, that's everything else is linked back to that cell. So I go multiply by 2, right? 3. So all of these 4 cells are linked back here. Now, the other cell that's important is that this total, this has to be summed together. Because this is where I'm getting that income. Whoa, what the heck? This is where I'm getting that income. It should be this total minus the 65,000. Yes. 13? This one? That's going to be the same for all of these. It's going to be unit sales. Oh, boy. You should do that. There's also another formula that would do this quicker. If you guys are interested in learning more Excel formulas. So if I zoom in here, right, we want to multiply unit sales by contribution margin for all the products. So we're going to do a formula that's called sum product. And you just highlight that data. And close the bracket. And it will give you the same answer. So what this formula does is it takes everything in that row and multiplies it by everything in that row.
Yeah, we know that.
You guys know it? Good. Okay. I'm not sure why you guys are showing or what. Anyway, it's just a shortcut somewhat. Yeah. And so again, goal seek, guys, we're going to change this cell. We want this cell to be 0. We want to break even. And we're going to find that by changing the number right here for Kate, because everything is linked back here. I'm going to hit OK. Is that the same that you guys are getting? Yeah. Now the math way to do this, okay, so even though we've got 5 different products, you can still calculate this without using goal seek, all right? we've got a 7 to 4 to 3 to 2 to 1 ratio. So we need to find the total contribution for all of these put together. So we've got 7 copies multiplied by 188, right? And then you've got 4 donuts by 50, 3, 195, 2, and 1. So what we're going to do here is again sum product. And it's going to be this row, comma, it's going to be this row. No, sorry. Yeah, make a close bracket. So this is 3106. That's the contribution per sales mix. So I'm going to take this number, all right, I'm going to cut it, put it right here. Fixed expense is 65,000. So we've got 65,000 on one side, we've got 3106 on the other side. And we just do the math. So 65 divided by 3106, we get 2092. That's not dollars, but that's units. So that's the total number of the sales mix. And because cake is the 1 in that ratio, that's what this number represents. This is the number of cakes. If you want to find the number of smoothies, multiply by 2. Number of keys, multiply by 3, etc. Is everyone following the algebra, or the math way to do this? Yep, so we're still just finding this equation. We have fixed expense, but the contribution per sales mix is what takes a little more work. When we just had 1 Americano, all we needed to do was divide 65,000 by 188 when there's 1 product, right? Break even is fixed expense divided by contribution margin. But if we have a bunch of products that have a relationship to each other, which in this case, we have 5 products, right? And for every 1 cake, we sell 2 smoothies, 3 tea, 4 donuts, 7 Americanos. So we need to get the contribution for this entire sales mix. So we do that, and I know I used an equation here, but we do that by saying, okay, we have 7 Americanos, multiplied 188 per Americano, plus we have 4 apple fritters, we make 50 cents per apple fritter. And plus, and we keep going, we got 3 teas, we make 195 per tea, plus we have 2 smoothies, multiplied by 375 per smoothie, plus we have 1 cake, multiplied by 255. So when we add that together, we get the entire contribution for the sales mix, the whole sales mix. In this case, it's going to be 106. And so now you've got the 2 numbers, right? Fixed expenses here. Contribution for sales mix is here. You can do the math. You can divide your fixed expense by the contribution for sales mix. And it spits back 1 number, but that would be the number of cakes because cake is the 1 in the equation, right? There's 1 cake in the sales mix. So this tells you how many cakes. And for the answer for all the other items, you just multiply by the number. So in this case, it would be 2 multiplied by this number. So you've got double the smoothies, 3 times the tea, 4 times the donuts, 7 times the Americano. And having this in the table, you can verify that yes, the answer is definitely 0 because you can see that it gives you 0 profit, right? Your break even. So there's a couple of ways you can go about getting your answer. What's necessary is this ratio. You've got to have a relationship between the products. And there's a lot of products that do have a connection, right? If you buy shampoo, you probably buy conditioner or soap, like these go together. If you buy a table, you probably buy 4 chairs. If you buy a new pair of shoes, you might also buy a pair of socks. There's things that couple each other, right? in most stores or retail companies that sell things. Same thing with food. So you buy a meal, you probably buy alcohol to go with it, a lot of times, a drink, etc. So all that means is when your sales go up for one item, they probably go up for another item. When sales go down, they probably go down. So there's a correlation between products that you sell. So figuring out how correlated things are or what the relationship is important. And that's where statistics comes into this analysis a little bit. Okay? So we're going to take a break. It's 10 after. If everybody can come back at 2:30, so in 20 minutes. And then we'll start the second half and probably end early if everybody can get back at 2:30. Yeah? Perfect. Good.
We got a break. We're gonna break from the lecture. Now, 20 minutes break. Exactly 20 minutes. Got the water. Yes. This is what we do. We study. We learn.
That's your thing. You gotta go talk to them. Believe you what? No.
That's crazy.
You gotta be here and if you're here, that's good. You're still getting the material. Because on the exam, that's 80%, right?
Exam is approaching. Nice. Just study.
I don't know what that wants to, yeah, we should be, you scan the QR code. If you're here every day, you do fine on the exam. Like, your grade should be fine. I won't worry about it. But, you guys are sitting here.
Yeah.
The fact that you're Erasmus might actually benefit you, because I don't think there's many. Where are you guys from? Yeah, so that would be on the system, and I don't think there's many other Erasmus yet.
Let's go, Lee. This is White University. It's a good day. It's a beautiful day today.
When I do the optional courses at home, I have to pass on the 4 or 5 subjects to get the credits. Because in Hungary there are subjects with 2 or 3 credits. I don't know why. But if I do subjects here too, we change the
True.
optional
True.
courses at home, I get the 5 credits. So if I do it here, I have the 10 credits.
100%. Oh shit.
Pro studenty, kde mají introvní, no jasně, to musíme jít taky, ale já jsem dělal normální. Tady zase jsou další místa, kde si člověk může sednout. A teď, jo, mimochodem dole, tam nepůjdeme, ale tam je naše reprografické centrum. Tam si provozí ekonomická fakulta, jako vlastně...
What's going on here? What's going on? Scan up some W's. Santa Prius.
With your regular accounting teachers, what have you guys done in this class? Remember? More financial statement stuff? Like your calculation of numbers?
True. True.
Just making your balance sheet.
Почему уменьшить свои стоимости?
That's interesting.
Да, из этого не хочу сказать. Все еще одну шутку. Да, Это не такая нет, потом все один раз. Потом я один раз с тобой поехала. Рядом. Найди пойдемте Нет, мы не можем сейчас сделать.
Right, Octo. I'm at the university, bro. I'm at class. We have a break right now. 10 minutes break, and then we will be back to the lecture. So,
Okay, we're at 30.
alright. Back on. We have a university class. It is accounting. We are doing accounting stuff. And we are working on Excel sheets. And it's not that enjoyable, but we are learning. We're doing okay. And drinking water. Drink water, guys. And put the likes. Please. Thank you, bro. Thank you. Gusti. Thank you, bro. Thank you. Gusti, bro. The like button, bro. We have 0 likes. It's crazy.
Okay, let's get everybody sat down. We'll start. Take a second photo. See who's here. Yeah, everybody, sat down.
That's it?
No, it's not a.
Ah.
Just post it. I already got your photo. So yeah, come in. Okay, account analysis. So what we're gonna do now, guys, is keep on the topic of costs. Yes. so with this question, guys, we're going to do what's called making a cost function. So this is an equation that's going to help us predict what the costs are in the future, okay? We just finished talking about sales, looking at the relationship between products and what sales will hopefully be. And so now we're going to try to predict what the total costs will be. And we know that it's not simply going to be 100% correlation to what your sales are, because we have fixed costs and variable costs. So variable costs go up, but fixed costs a lot of the time stay the same, unless we, kind of hit a threshold or something. So in this example, we're going to look specifically at a hospital, all right, medical system. Now, in most countries, I wouldn't say most countries, but a lot of countries, healthcare is kind of covered, right, by the government. However, we know that in America, USA, that's not the case. And so when you go to the doctor, you get a bill, right, even if you have insurance covers maybe 95%. So I know this may not be a great example to use, but me and my wife, we had our 3 kids, when we were living in Boston. But every time that we had a child, we would get a bill, right? And in the bill, you could see what the different things cost. So she was there 3 days, just like a hotel room. The room would cost a certain amount of money. Now the insurance company, you pay for insurance, right? So you have private health insurance. That would cover most of it. But it was about $2,000 US what it cost to have it paid. So you have to pay your bill, right? Just like anything. Now, most countries that's covered, but that's how it works. But you can see how much every specialist, the anesthesiologist, right, that would make her not feel any of the pain during the C-sections. So all of that would cost money. Anyway, a lot of money flows through hospitals. So if you are from a country, like in Canada, healthcare is covered, it still costs money. Where does that money come from? Your taxes, right? So you pay taxes, and that's where the doctor's salary comes from. That's where the light bill gets paid by the hospital, the energy bill, a lot of electricity being used. So it does cost a lot of money to run a hospital, okay? So how can we track the costs? What's the best way that we can kind of measure this? The question is, what is causing the costs in a hospital? And the answer is patients. If you have 0 patients, if there's no one entering the hospital, then you have no need for doctors or for the hospital at all, right? If no one gets sick, there's no problems. And there's kind of a bigger conversation on, whether or not your country or government actually wants that to happen. People going to the doctor and being sick is part of the economy. It keeps things running. So doctors still have jobs, nurses, and people have to buy medicine. Pharmaceutical companies do well. The more people are sick, right? So pharmaceuticals make more money because you're having to buy their medication, they make it, etc. So it's big business in whatever country you live in. Like it's definitely a big part of the running of the economy. Anyway, but it's measured by patient days. So just like a hotel, you look at, September 1st, how many people entered the hotel? That would be the number of people. In a hospital, it's the same thing. How many patients are in the hospital? So in this example, we're let's say 1 month of data. There's 3,700 patient days. So there's obviously more than one room. There's multiple rooms in a hospital, okay? So in one day, you could have 100 rooms being used. The next day, someone might stay there a second day. So some people are really sick. They stay at the hospital the whole month. And sometimes they leave through the front door to get better. And sometimes they don't get better. What happens? They pass away, right? So they go through the back door. And that would end the patient days. So that's typically how the measurement happens. Now, what we're trying to track here is the maintenance cost of the hospital, maintaining the hospital. So what's a big thing in a hospital? What do you always have to do? It's the same thing in a hotel, but it's very, very important in a hospital. So cleaning, sanitary, keeping things very, very clean. You can't have, if someone exits a room, you basically have to change everything in that room and desanitize it, right? Maintenance of the hospital is very, very important, very expensive, especially after COVID. So that's one of the major costs, along with salaries of the employees, like doctors and nurses. That's very expensive too. But maintaining the hospital. And so the idea is that the less patient days you have, typically you should have less maintenance costs. Because a room isn't turning over as fast, so you're not using as much cleaning supplies, you're not needing as many janitors, right, maintenance people to keep the hospital going. So the first thing we want to do here to turn this into an equation that we can use going forward is we got to break down our expenses into fixed and variable. So a salary, notice here we have fixed, and then hourly wages are variable, okay? So people get paid, but they can get paid in two different ways. Either a salary, or they can get paid per hour, so hourly wage. One is fixed, one is variable. Equipment depreciation, or even maintenance of equipment. This is going to be fixed, and then if you are repairing, that's variable. And then finally, your cleaning supplies, also variable. Okay, so determining what's fixed, what's variable is important, and then at the bottom, all we're going to do is sum together these numbers. Okay, so I'll leave that equation up there for a moment. We're just summing together all the fixed, and then do the same thing for variable, so we get two totals, okay? Is everybody getting 9673?
Yeah.
Grab the corner of the cell, drag it to the right, and you should get 27750. And it's, again, just your sum function. Okay, so far everyone's good. Now the reason we're doing this is because, again, we're going to write an equation that's going to help us predict the total maintenance cost for the future. So for 3,700 patient days, we have this much in variable costs. What we need to find out is the variable cost per patient day. What is it? And so what we're going to do is take that 27750 and we're going to divide it by the number of patient days, 3,700. What do you guys get for that? About 750? Yeah, so it's exactly 750, okay? So, with this number here, we have 750. We didn't do anything to the fixed costs, okay? The idea is that no matter how many patient days we have, this number stays the same, okay? So now we can write our equation. The equation looks like this: total maintenance cost equals, and we write it as fixed total plus variable cost per unit, or in this case, per patient day. I'm just going to abbreviate that total maintenance cost, so TMC equals, fixed cost is 9673 plus variable cost per patient day is 750, and then that's multiplied by patient days. Right, so I'm just going to put that in brackets. So this is is what's known as your cost function. And how would this be used? It's very bad. Everybody good? Am I good to go forward? Most people got it typed out. Is everybody getting the same cost function? So if next month we predict 3,300 patient days, what will our maintenance costs be? I want you guys to solve it. So if we predict in the future we're going to have 3,300 patient days, what do you think we're going to spend in maintenance costs? Anyone feel it? More.
840 for one.
So total maintenance cost, this is the formula we're trying to solve for, right? We think we're going to have this many patient days coming up, 300 patient days. Plug that into the equation right here, patient days.
$10.8.
It's definitely going to be more than 9,673. Should be more. So if the next month, guys, we're going to have 3,300 patient days. This is our equation. Total maintenance cost equals 9,673 plus 750 multiplied by patient days. Okay, so to write this out, we have total maintenance cost equals 9,673 plus, we're going to have 750 multiplied by 3,300. This is what you're solving for. So to do it, you're going to take your 9,673, so I'm going to click on the number up here, plus a 750 multiplied by 3,300 patient days. What do you guys get? It's going to be higher. 30, yeah, that sounds about right. 34,
91.
423. At 3,700, what was our total cost? It would have been these two added together, right? The total maintenance cost. We have all the numbers. It would have been 37,423. Okay, your fixed plus your variable. That's for the given data. If the next month we think it's going to be 33, right? Fixed costs stay the same. 9673, and then with the equation here, we found out the cost per patient day, and we multiplied by, and this is what we're predicting, right, 3,300. And that gives us the variable cost. So it's going to be less, right? Less patient days, so less cost. So we're just creating an equation that will predict the cost going forward. Let's do another example. Maybe it'll be, this one will come a little bit easier. We're making a computer. Computers are us. Notice, very, very similar, right? Here's the monthly cost. We have a telephone bill, we got a utility bill, advertising, insurance. We made 5 computers in total. The materials to make those 5 computers was $5,500, so that's all variable costs. And then we have labor, which is essentially salaries. In total, it's $2,150, but we break it into fixed and variable. So what we need to do is to make a cost function to show or to calculate total expenses to make computers. Just like before, the first thing you want to do is sum together all of your fixed expenses. Find out what the fixed total is, 1670. Okay? So put that in brackets. We have this one. Do the same thing for variables, so bring that across. We've got 6,310 for variable, right? So it's just summing together the variable expenses. The next thing we have to do is find the cost per computer. Okay, so the number of computers we make, that's what's called the cost driver. The more computers we make, the more expenses we have. If we don't make any computers, not much expense, right? So what is the cost to make one computer? What's the variable cost per computer? Pretty close. Yes. Sounds close, probably right. So what are we doing? We're taking the variable, divided by, we made 5 computers, right? So divided by 5. So it's 1262. 1,262. This is the cost, variable cost, to make a computer. Once you have that number and you have your fixed number, you can make a cost function. Because now if I'm asking you, all right, we have to make 6 computers. What's going to be the cost? Well, you just add 1262 to that total. If we got to make 15 computers, what's the total cost? Okay? If we predict we need to make 15 computers next month. What will our total expenses be? cost function. What's our fixed expense total? 1670. Plus, and what's the variable expense? 1262. So it's going to be 1262 multiplied by computers. Right? That's your equation. You have your number of computers, plug it into your equation, and you get your total cost. Right? So we know that computers, this is 15. We're just plugging 15 in. Because you got numbers on Excel, all you got to do is go equal sign, fix, plus, cost per computer times 15. Right? Is everybody following what we're trying to do here? Okay, so this number is bigger, 20,600. Most people get 2,600. Yes, good, thumbs up. Okay. So these examples are easier. The reason why they're easier is because the cost driver is easy to identify. Right? What's causing our costs to go up? The number of computers. But it is possible that we can have multiple different cost drivers. All right? And the task is to identify which cost driver has the highest relationship or the most correlation to your expenses. So let's click on the next tab called high-low. Now we're going to start coupling statistics a little bit with accounting. So you guys did a module in statistics last week, was it? Yeah. So maybe there might be some carryover from that, what we're going to do. X and Y variable, you guys know your independent and dependent variables? Which is which? Okay, so here we have, this is again the hospital example, okay? Facility maintenance department costs. We have number of patients, and you can see here 3,700 gives you 37,000. And you can see every month the patient days is kind of changing. Some days you got a lot more people in the hospital than others, right? And you can tell the maintenance costs. It kind of goes down, and you can visually see that these are kind of pretty closely related, right? Now, this is where in a country like the USA, we're very concerned with the costs. What does it cost to run those rooms? Because similar to a hotel, certain hospital rooms are a lot more expensive than others, right? So the ICU, intensive care unit, where you have really, really sick people hooked up to machines. So I know it's not like nice to talk about, but very, very expensive bed. Costs a lot of money. You have more doctors involved, more nurses. There's a lot more being put into keeping these people alive, right? You start going down, there's cheaper rooms. So if you just have your standard checkup room, someone's feeling sick, they go to a hospital, right? They're really not feeling good. Or let's say somebody here drinks way too much on Friday night, and hopefully no one's had to have this done. You got to get your stomach pumped, meaning you're unconscious, too much alcohol. This is what happens. You go to the hospital, you put a tube down your esophagus, very nice image, and they suck out the alcohol, right? So you're in a room, a doctor does that, and then you're discharged. Now you feel better. Fantastic.
But surprisingly, you know it very well.
Yes. So, this is what happens. I'm just explaining the different costs of the room. Some are cheaper than others, right? You break your arm, not a big deal, but cheaper room. Anyway, having babies, more expensive room. You're going to be there a few days, right? There's more doctors involved. My point is that look at the patient days and this value of room charges. We got 3,700 patient days. How much did those rooms cost? 2.1 million. 1,600 patient days, look at the cost, 2.7 million. So we're kind of seeing the numbers jump around. They're not really correlated, right? were quite possibly a lot more expensive. They must have been, yeah. So this is one person in a hospital room. Okay, so in the month of January, this means during that entire month, if you count from January 1st to the end of the 31st, there was 3,700 rooms being occupied. So there may only be, let's say, 500 rooms in the hotel. Sorry, the hospital? Jeez. So in the hospital, let's say there's 500 rooms. On the first, maybe only 200 were occupied. On the next day, there could have been 300, right? More people entered the hospital. And maybe the next day it goes down, and then the next day it goes up. At the end of the month, the total is 3,700. Okay? So the question is this the better predictor of maintenance, right? Cleaning the hospital, or is the value of the room charges? So we have another X variable here, okay? And there could be multiple different X variables. But what we need to figure out is which one of the X variables is the best predictor of maintenance costs. Now with these two numbers, you can kind of visually see that patient days seems to be the most correlated, right? But we're going to use some statistics to prove that yes, patient days definitely is more correlated. And this is where Excel is pretty good because it gives you a very straightforward formula. So I'm going to do it up here on top, okay? We're going to go equal sign, and we're going to calculate the correlation, so the relationship between two sets of data. And all you're going to do is type in CORREL, so that's short for correlation. Open your bracket, and what you guys will see is it's asking you to insert array 1. All that means is highlight your data, okay? So what you're going to do is come over here to your Y variables. We're going to highlight all of the Y variables, okay? And then you hit comma. And now you highlight all of the X variables. And then you close your bracket. So what we're doing is we're comparing these two sets of data. When one number goes up, does the other number go up? When one goes down, does the other go down? Are they correlated? Is this equation working for you guys? When you get enter, what do you get? Okay. 0.977, right? This means very highly correlated. 1, you get an answer of 1, that means perfect correlation, okay? And you can test this if you want. If you want to just make up some numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go 2, 4, 6, 8. These two sets of data are perfectly correlated. Notice that one set of data goes up by 1, the other set of data goes up by 2. And if you want to show this as correlation, perfect correlation, right? 1. Now if I change this a little bit and I say 1.9, notice that my correlation, but it's pretty close, right? So this 0.977 means that patient days and the cost to clean the rooms are pretty closely correlated. They're not perfect, but 0.977 statistically is very, very high. Let's do it again for the next variable. So again, the purpose of this is trying to determine what's the strongest predictor of our expense, which is maintenance expense. And so we're just going to repeat correlation, and you use your new data, right? So we take the cost of the rooms, and then we take the maintenance cost, and we can kind of see that it's going to be less, right? Because you can see that the numbers are fluctuating, and you should get 0.71. So this is telling you, like statistically, this is the better predictor. There's more of a correlation between patient days than the cost of those rooms, okay? Is everyone good so far? Okay. So the high-low method, this is a method to make a cost function. This is a very quick and easy and old method. Honestly, it's probably not even useful anymore because we have Excel. We don't need this method. But pre-Microsoft Excel, there's a few different ways you can write a cost function, and the high-low method is one way you could do it if you just had paper, right? So if you want to do a quick, easy calculation, we can do the high-low method. What you have to do is identify the high and low Y variable. So you got to find the highest and the lowest. Now, we only have 12 months of data, so that makes this pretty easy. But if we hypothetically had 50 years of data, and let's pretend this was weekly data and not monthly, so you're going to have 52 weeks in a year, you've got 50 years, right? So now you're going to have over 25,000 data points. This is again where Excel can help. So do you guys know the max and min functions?
Yes.
Yeah. So if we're just trying to find the high, so if we want to find the high data point, we go equal sign max, open your bracket, right? Highlight your data, close your bracket. And what it's going to do is spit back the high data point, 47,000. Same thing for low, equal sign min. And it spits back the low data point. So again, this is just high-low, min and max equation. So I'll just highlight that for you guys. Again, data, you would use this. In this example, you don't necessarily need it, but it's useful. So is everybody getting 47 for high and 17 for low? So with the low, you're doing min. I'll just highlight that. Now that's the Y data point, okay? We now need to take the corresponding X data point. Now be careful with this, you're not taking the high and low X data point. Notice we have April, 47,000. So what you're going to do is simply take the X point for April, right? So we're going to take the 4,900, and then for the low point, which is 17,000, we're going to take the 1,200. So this is the high data point and the low data point. Well, I think in this example, it is in fact min and max, but let's say if this number was not 49 and if it was 39, then it wouldn't be min and max. But that's not what you're looking for here. You're not finding the largest and the smallest. You're taking the X variable that's connected to the 47. So in this case, these are data points that you're taking, right? April and September. Okay, so before we go forward, has everyone got these two data points? So with this, you can now make a cost function. The way you do it is you first subtract. So you get the difference between the high and the low. So I'm just subtracting the 47 from the 17. Okay? Not subtracting the 49 from the 12. Everybody good? So you get 30,000 and 3,700. And then to the right, we're going to divide 30,000 by the 3,700. This gives us 8.108 repeating. I'll double click on that so you guys can see it. And what this number is one of the items in your cost function. This is your cost per patient day. So we're going to write a cost function, right? Total maintenance cost equals fixed cost plus variable cost per unit, so cost per patient day. This amount here, I'm now going to change to dollars. This is the, I'll write it to the side, the cost per per patient day. Yeah, so come up here to the accounting part and just click on the dollar symbol on the cell, and it should change the cell to dollars. They work?
The sign is loaded.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you might have to click on the drop down and find it. Maybe you can go to more accounting formats. The other way you can do this, guys, if let's say I see dollar symbol or any sort of formatting, if you come up to the left, you'll notice that there's this paintbrush on Excel. It's called Format Painter. Does everybody see that?
Yeah.
So this is a very useful tool. If I'm trying to take any sort of formatting, so let's say this, right, this dollar symbol that's bolded, I'm going to click on the Format Painter, and here I have a paintbrush. So anything I click on is going to change to that exact format. So if I click here, now it becomes dollar symbols in bold as well, right? So anytime you're like not able to find or you're trying to change something, Format Painter is a useful way to change formatting. Okay, so back to cost per patient day. Come in. Hey.
Can I just ask you a question? If you can not log off the computer after the connection.
Oh, all right, perfect. No trouble. Thanks. Okay, so the next step is to find the fixed cost total. And basically, we're going to solve the equation backwards. So we're going to use either one of these two data points to then give us what fixed cost is. Okay, so over to the side, I'm going to write fixed cost total. And here, it's going to be, you can use either data point. You're going to go 47,000, subtract 4,900, multiply by 811. So I'll just leave that there for a moment. Your class is at 4. I feel like you're super early. Like, it's another 50 minutes before the room is free. Sounds like there's a lot of students trying to get in.
Maybe one of give them the opportunity.
Say again. Yeah. No, what I mean is like, this class obviously is here when we're done. I'm pretty sure I'll be students outside that are like opening the door, looking in, but it's not until 4. Like they're really, really early to be coming. I don't know. Anyway, so are you guys getting 7,270? Okay? You can do the same thing with the other data point. You can take 17,000, subtract 1,200, multiply by the 811. You'll get the exact same number. So it doesn't matter which data point you use. You get the same number. This is your fixed cost total. And so once you do that, you have your cost equation. So with this high-low method, all you need are 2 data points, and you can write a cost function, is what that means, okay? And to finish it, what that looks like is total maintenance cost equals. The fixed cost is 7,270.27 plus the variable cost per patient days, 811, multiplied by patient days, okay? So this here is your cost function using the high-low method. Now, the good thing about the high-low method is you don't need Excel. You can do the math pretty quickly, and you can write the cost function. The bad news is that this is not accurate. Unfortunately, this is inaccurate. The reason why it's inaccurate is because we can write a way more precise equation using all of the data points. And not only are we going to write it, we're actually going to graph it as well. We're going to visually show the relationship. So if everyone can click on the next tab called Visual Fit Line. So what we're going to do here, guys, is make a table. table, so you're gonna wanna go to insert in Excel. And you should see a bunch of different chart options, right? Now, I'm not pro at this, but the way I like to do this, or what I find to be the easiest way, is if you first take your x and y variables, and that's how it's written, right, in math, in algebra, x, y. So you've got to put your data in that order. It's not in that order right here. Notice we have y on the left, x on the right. So what you're going to want to do is copy the x variables, paste here, right? So here's my x1. And then I'm going to take my y variables, and I'm going to paste it to the right. So you just do copy paste. So have x, y, left and right. Once you do that, you then want to highlight your data. So you highlight the entire block of data. Everybody good? I'm not going too fast. If I am, just tell me to slow down. Okay, so then we go to our charts. We want to insert a line graph. So you're clicking on the chart that looks like this. Now in a Mac, I think you guys probably have the same thing, okay? Let's keep it, let's see here. Recommended chart. Actually, yeah, we're not going to do line. I don't know why I said line graph. Go to the scatter plot instead.
What did you choose? Which one?
The scatter plot, not the line. We're going to make a line. We're not choosing a line. That was my bad. Go to scatter plot.
I think your Excel is kind of different.
Okay, so what's different? You're not seeing scatter plot? Do you guys have this option in charts?
Yeah.
Scatter plot. So, are people able to create this here?
Why don't you choose in X1 200 wording?
Oh, down here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is because we're in December, and what we're going to do is predict the cost if we have to. So we're going to come to this later, but for now, we're focused on the chart, okay? So let's insert our line. So what we're going to make, guys, is what's called the line of best fit. Hopefully you guys never had to do this manually. When I went through school, we did on graph paper. That was fun. But we're going to insert a line that basically is as close to every point as possible, okay? So if you click on chart elements, now if you have a Mac, I believe that's over here on the left. Is that right? Yeah. Or on the right. I'm trying to remember the Mac. Okay, and what you're looking to click is trend line. So I'm going to tick that bar, trend line. Okay. Was everybody getting the trend line to show up? Okay, yeah, options. Linear, yeah. Yeah. Now what you're going to want to do is double click on the line itself, okay? So again, you're going to format trend line, and you can probably see this, right? So you got more options here, right? So I'm going to go more options. It brings me to this format trend line on the right. Are you guys getting this?
Can you show it again?
Yeah, I'll show it again. So once you have the trend line in charts, a quick way to get it is put your cursor on the line and double click. So I got my cursor on the line, I'm going to double click, and then to the right I get this formatting. Yeah? Scroll to the bottom. Do you guys see display equation on chart? Click that button. This is going to be very good. That's your cost function. So this is now telling you the equation for this line. We have slope, right? This 6.95x, that's cost per patient day. Where this crosses the axes, 9328, that's if you carry this line down, it would cross the x-axis at that point. That's your fixed cost. Okay? So I know I've been writing the cost function with fixed cost first, then the cost per patient day. This is the same equation, same thing right here. Okay? But this is your most accurate equation because this is the line of best fit, right? So this line is the most accurate to all the points, and this now tells you your best cost function.
Do we need to do something like this on Friday?
Of course you do.
On Friday?
Yeah. But now I'm gonna show you a little shortcut. So again, this is how you visually show the data. Let's now get this cost function using Excel formulas. Not difficult, okay? Slope, equal sign, slope, open your bracket. Have you guys done these before? You have? Okay, so pretty straightforward though. It says after the bracket, known y's. So what are we going to highlight? The y variables. So we're going to highlight all of the y variables, right? And then we do comma, and now it says known x's. Highlight all your known x's that you're using, right? Then close your bracket. So now you're getting that data point that it gave you in the chart. So you should get 695, right? What is this number? This is the cost per patient day. And if you want, you can change this to a dollar amount. That's what it is. Okay. So that's one number. What's the other number we have to find? I'll bring this back so you guys can see the equation again. We also need to find the fixed expense number, right? We have to find, so look at our chart again. This is our equation, right? And you can move this chart around if you want. So we just found the 69570. What is this number here, this 93? That's the fixed expense. But if you want to be more like precise, where this line crosses the axis, what is that technically called? Intercept. Yeah, there we go. So this is your intercept, okay? And that's what we usually sell. Same thing. Equal sign, type out intercept, open your bracket. And you follow the same process. Highlight your Y data points and your X data points. Are you guys getting the same number? 6.9 is slow, but now you got to get the fixed expense using intercept equation. So Y variables. So you open your bracket and you highlight all of the Y variables. And then you do a comma, right? And now you're highlighting after the comma all the known x's, so your x variables. Then you close your bracket. So this is your fix, right? So I'm going to make this a dollar amount. This is the fixed expense total. So now you have your cost function. You've got it up here in the chart, but now you actually have the numbers. The reason that's important is because over here, January, if we predict that there's going to be 2,400 patient days, what's our predicted total maintenance cost. Can we solve the equation? So tell me what to put in the equation here. Equal sign, what am I multiplying and adding? It's going to be fixed expense plus cost per patient day multiplied by 2,400. And you get 1046. Everybody good? Okay, so just to, right, this is slope, intercept. Very easy formulas. Equal sign slope, equal sign intercept. Is everyone good with making the cost function visual fit line? Let's go to our next tab. We're almost done, guys. Regression analysis. Now, if you want to get a bit more specific, we can do a regression. If you go up to data in Excel, and you guys, I'm hoping you guys did do this in statistics. Yeah? Maybe? So go to analysis on the far right. Do you guys have this on your Excel? If you do not, you can add it. It's an add-in in Excel, okay? So if you have a Mac and you go up to, I think, options, you should see that you can add data analysis toolpath, I think it's called. You guys here do that? Let's give you some time. If you don't have a Mac, do you guys see this option? Okay, because if you don't, I'm going to show you how to add it. Because I also don't have a Mac, right? So what I'm going to do is, again, if you don't have a Mac, follow these steps. It's a little more complicated than a Mac. They actually make it easier using an Apple laptop. So if you do not have data analysis, guys, go to File. For everybody who doesn't have a Mac, okay, go to File. What you're looking for at the very bottom is options, okay? So at the very bottom of this template, bottom left, go to options, and you'll get this kind of window, yeah. Click on add-ins. See on the far left, add-ins. Excel add-ins. You're going to click Go. And then it brings you to this little box. And this is where you're going to click Analysis Toolpath. So on Mac, it should, yeah, none of this would exist on Mac.
Yeah, it's because
Analysis Toolpath, yeah. So if you don't have a Mac, this is what you're looking for. And what you should get over here in data is data analysis. And when you click on it, this is the little box you get. So this is going to allow you to do a lot of things. We are going to move down to regression, quick regression. Stay here for a moment. Is everybody this far? You guys are getting this? Hit OK. And it's pretty straightforward. It's going to ask you to input Y range. Okay? highlight your Y. It's gonna ask you to input X range. You're gonna highlight your X. Right, so you're inputting the data. It's gonna ask you some other things, constant zero, confidence level, labels. We're not gonna click into that, not necessary for this example. Down here in output range, we're gonna click on that option, output range. And all this is asking you is where do you want your data to show up? So I'm going to come over here and click on cell G2. Okay, you can put it anywhere, really, as long as it's over to the right, away from your data. Very important. Does everybody have the same thing? Click OK, what happens? You guys getting statistics that look like this. Does that work?
That's crazy.
Give me a thumbs up if you got these, yeah, in the back. Couple, 3, 4. Yeah? Okay. You should recognize some of these numbers. First off, look down here, intercept, X variable, right? These two numbers are the same as what we just found. Come over here, what's this 0.977? That's our correlation, right? So we can find this number, but they give us what would be a better predictor of correlation, which is R squared. You guys have heard of R squared in statistics? All we're doing, guys, is we're taking this correlation number and we're squaring it. The reason why we're doing that is because you can have negative correlation, right? When one thing goes up, another thing goes down. The older you get, typically your health gets worse. These are negatively correlated. You also get shorter the older you get as a human. That's just how it is. Your bones compress, your discs get smaller. Shaquille O'Neal is no longer 7'2". You shrink. So this negative correlation would show up as negative. To compare correlation, just to make the statistics more in line, they square it, right? So again, R squared is just this number, and you can test this by saying that, right? If you take the multiple R to the power of 2, you get the same number, okay? That's R squared, exact same number. So that's all you're getting is this multiple R gets squared, so that's correlation. Again, same analysis, the closer this is to 1, the more correlated it is. And the rest of the statistics for this basic example, not necessary, but if you're wanting to get a little more in-depth in comparing, you have more statistics with this regression. Now the very last tab, guys, is called Regression Analysis Outlier.
The last one.
On the very last tab, guys, what is the issue with our data? Can anyone notice the problem? See if we have anybody in the class that's got a good eye for numbers. July, you're close. There's an issue with July, but it's not wrong. But there is a problem. So notice here in this row, guys, look at the maintenance cost in July. What happened? Plummeted, super low. But did the other data points go down? Look back at the previous data, right? Look at July, 32,000, 3,500, 3 million. It's not 32,000, it's 1,200. You can have data that has outliers, numbers that don't really make sense. And this is where the visual fit chart comes in handy, right? When you plot your data, so again, if you had 20,000 rows of data here, you may not notice that something is off, right? But if you plot it, then you can can see, like, the data is all kind of correlated, and all of a sudden you got a couple of dots that are way out of whack, all right? When this happens, in reality with your data, this is going to mess up your cost function. If you want to test it, you can quickly test it by doing what? How can you see how much this has messed up your data? Correlation, right? So if we come up here, and we do the correlation, so we take our data, .65. That one data point brought it from 0.97 to 0.65. It's completely thrown off the correlation. Okay, so again, I'm just doing the correlation function here. So in reality, you have to figure out what the problem is. Is this an incorrect data point? Or is there an explanation? So going back to internal accounting, does anyone remember the 3 areas of internal accounting? It was on a slide. I went through it yesterday. I'll give you a hint. The first thing we do is scorekeeping. The second thing is attention direction, which would be right here. Here, this got our attention. And what's the third one? Problem solving. So we need to find out why this is 1,200. What's an explanation as to how the cost to clean your hospital went down to 1,200, even though you still had 3,500 patient days? And there could be some different explanations. Maybe this is a typo. Go back and look at the accounting records, right? This is where financial accounting comes in handy. Go to that month, look at the T accounts. What were the expenses during the month of July for maintenance for the hospital? Does it actually equal 1,200? Can we find the records, right? If it does equal 1,200, what else could be an explanation here? I'll give you guys a hint. This is somewhat real data. What happens a lot in France is happening in Germany right now. It's kind of like a pretty common workers' social, not riots, close though, very close. Strikes, yes. Riot and strike are pretty closely related. So strikes, they go on strike when the workers at the hospital, the maintenance workers, are not happy with their salary, right? We're going to go on strike. Then what the hospital does is they have to keep operating. So now the nurses, the doctors, they start cleaning, right? But they're not getting paid extra to do it. They're just trying to keep things going. Or maybe they call what's called scab labor. They'll bring in people to do the job for like a tenth of the price, pay them cash, more or less under the table, to try to keep things moving forward as the negotiations happen. But that causes an expense to drop. That could cause your expense to drop, and then you'll notice that it goes back up. So the strike gets solved, maybe the workers get what they want. But the issue going forward is that if this number is correct, you have to make a cost function that is still accurate. And the ways that you can deal with this, one easy way is to just straight up delete it. This data point does not reflect typical business operations. Get rid of it, delete it, put everything else together, make your cost function. Another option, let's say this lasted multiple months, make a cost function only using the data after this anomaly, right? So you can't use anything before, don't use anything during the anomaly, just take everything after. The reason why is because if something like a strike happened, if people are mad about their salary, and then it gets resolved. So maybe they won, and now they're getting paid more. So now you've got a change in your expenses, okay? So salaries are going to be different. So your cost function needs to reflect that, and not the old data with the old salaries, right? So you would only make a cost function using things that happen after this. So when you're doing cost functions or trying to predict future costs, you have to be very cognizant of things that might affect the expense totals, right? So anomalies to your data. Okay, so 20 minutes early, let's end class here. Yeah? Good, alrighty. See everybody tomorrow. Be here on time. However, tomorrow, guys, the QR code may not be here in the morning. It might not. I'm not sure what Jakob's going to do, but he might bring the QR code at another time. We'll see what he does. But yeah, try to be here at 1. I'm going to take the photo again. Guys are all going to be here. Yeah? All right.
As I understand, say we are excused.
If you guys can show up on time tomorrow, you'll be fine.
Okay.
You're going to get very simple questions on the exam on Friday, right? So as long as you're here and you're able to do this, you should be fine for Friday.
Will it be multiple choice or open?
Just like this.
Okay.